If your income disappeared tomorrow, how long would your confidence last? A week? A month? 6 months? A high income feels like protection. It feels like insulation from uncertainty. It feels like you've stepped into a safer tier of life, where serious financial danger applies to someone else. You don't hesitate at dinner prices. You don't panic over minor emergencies. You don't check your bank balance before making decisions. You breathe differently. You assume stability. And slowly, without saying it out loud, a belief settles in. I'm secure. Because the number attached to your name is large. Because your compensation signals competence. Because your career trajectory feels upward. Earn more, worry less, advance further, relax more. That's the quiet equation most professionals carry. But stability rarely collapses loudly. It erodes quietly. And one of the most dangerous financial illusions in modern professional life is the belief that income equals security. Income is flow. Security is structure. Income depends on conditions continuing. Security survives when conditions change. Those are not the same thing. Income feels permanent because it has been consistent. Security only reveals itself when consistency breaks. The illusion grows strongest during good times. When the company is expanding. When bonuses are predictable. When promotions feel inevitable. Momentum disguises fragility. And because nothing appears broken, nothing feels urgent to reinforce. So lifestyle expands, commitments solidify, obligations multiply quietly in the background. Not recklessly, just incrementally. A slightly larger mortgage, a slightly higher fixed cost base, a slightly more complex financial life. Each decision makes sense on its own. Collectively, they reshape your structure. And structure determines survival. The real question is not how much you earn. The real question is what remains if the earning stops. Not hypothetically, just temporarily. 6 months? 9 months? 12 months? Would your confidence remain steady? Would your decision-making remain calm? Would you still negotiate from strength? Financial security is not tested when bonuses are paid. It is tested when uncertainty appears. And when uncertainty appears, what you built underneath your income matters more than the income itself. That is where most people discover what they actually built. Let's make this concrete, because this is where the conversation usually becomes uncomfortable. Picture someone earning $240,000 a year, mid-career, strong credentials, respected in their field. They live in a desirable neighborhood. They own a home with a meaningful mortgage aligned with their income. They drive a reliable luxury vehicle. They contribute to retirement accounts automatically. They invest consistently. They take thoughtful vacations. Nothing about this looks reckless. Everything looks responsible. They are doing what financially educated professionals are told to do. Build your career. Increase your income. Upgrade gradually. Plan responsibly. Their lifestyle expanded slowly. A larger home after a promotion. Private school when income allowed it. A second vehicle when schedules tightened. Each step felt justified. Each step felt earned. From the outside, this person appears financially secure. Colleagues see competence. Friends see success. Family sees stability. And internally, they feel stable too. Bills are paid. Investments are growing. Income arrives every 2 weeks. Because nothing feels urgent, nothing feels fragile. But remove their income for 12 months. Not permanently. Just 12 months. A restructuring. An industry slowdown. Keep the mortgage. Keep the tuition. Keep the fixed monthly obligations exactly as they are. The lifestyle does not pause just because income does. What changes? The first month feels manageable. Savings absorb the shock. By month 3, spending tightens. By month 6, decisions feel heavier. The focus shifts from long-term optimization to short-term stabilization. By month 9, pressure becomes personal. Not because competence disappeared, but because dependency became visible. Do they wait for the right opportunity, or accept the first available one? Do they stay disciplined, or liquidate assets to relieve anxiety? High income once provided confidence. Now the absence of income exposes structure. The risk was never visible in good years. It was hidden inside fixed obligations, inside the assumption that income would continue uninterrupted. That is where the illusion begins to crack. And once it cracks, it rarely feels theoretical. It feels personal. The logic seems obvious. If I earn more, I reduce risk. If my salary increases, my life becomes safer. If I move up professionally, I insulate myself from uncertainty. And early in a career, that equation appears to work. When income rises from $60,000 to $120,000, pressure drops. Debt shrinks. Savings grow. Breathing becomes easier. The brain links income with relief. Relief with safety. That wiring is powerful. So when income doubles again, we assume safety doubles with it. We extend the equation instead of questioning it. But after a certain point, something subtle shifts. Income stops reducing vulnerability and begins financing complexity. Lifestyle expands. Commitments grow. Baseline costs rise. Externally, everything still looks positive. Promotions are celebrated. Raises are admired. Compensation becomes proof of value. And value feels protective. Because income is visible and rewarded, we optimize for it. Security is invisible and private, so we assume it follows automatically. There is also a psychological layer beneath the math. Income protects identity. It protects status. It protects how others see us and how we see ourselves. When income rises, self-confidence rises with it. The fear of falling behind softens. Income becomes intertwined with self-worth. And once that happens, planning for interruption feels unnecessary. Preparing for volatility feels pessimistic. We tell ourselves we will strengthen structure later. After the next raise, after the next bonus. But income is conditional. It depends on employers, industries, economic cycles, health, timing, and relevance. It depends on forces larger than any individual. Income exists because conditions allow it to. Security exists despite changing conditions. That distinction is rarely emphasized. Income delivers immediate feedback. The paycheck arrives, the bonus clears. Security, by contrast, is quiet. Liquidity attracts no applause. Optionality produces no visible signal. So income becomes the scorecard. And what is measured becomes what is maximized. Over time, the equation reverses. Income no longer reduces risk. It raises the cost of maintaining your life. Required income climbs, margin narrows, dependency increases. Yet because salary is higher than ever, you feel safer than ever. That contradiction is the illusion. High income can coexist with structural fragility, and most people do not realize which side they are on until something forces them to find out. And misunderstanding that difference is where fragility begins. On the surface, high income feels like upward momentum, but markets and careers do not reward momentum alone. They reward durability. And durability is rarely visible during expansion. Over multiple cycles, one pattern becomes clear. I've watched professionals double their compensation within a decade. New titles, new authority, new confidence. From the outside, they appeared insulated from risk. And quietly, their fixed obligations expanded as well. Housing scaled up. Lifestyle scaled up. Expectations scaled up. In strong markets, none of this feels dangerous. Revenue is steady. Hiring is active. Promotions feel predictable. Optimism feels rational. But cycles turn. They always do. I've watched hiring freeze almost overnight. I've watched restructurings eliminate roles that once seemed untouchable. I've watched compensation renegotiated under pressure. In those moments, the distinction between income and security becomes clear. The professionals who remain composed during contraction are rarely the highest earners. They are the most structurally prepared. They controlled fixed costs even when lenders offered more. They built liquidity when bonuses were strong. They converted income into assets instead of recurring commitments. They treated income as variable, even when it felt stable. The professionals who struggle are often highly capable, intelligent, disciplined in their careers, but they allowed lifestyle to scale faster than structure. They optimize for visible success. They assume the current trajectory would continue. And when income shifted, even temporarily, the structure underneath revealed its limits, not because they were careless, but because they never tested their assumptions during prosperity. Experience changes how you measure safety. You stop measuring it by income size. You start measuring it by resilience under stress. And once you've seen strong income weaken under external pressure, you no longer confuse earnings with security. Structure starts impressing you instead. And once you see it clearly, you can't unsee it. Income scales linearly. Obligations scale behaviorally. As income increases, expectations increase. Housing absorbs more. Lifestyle absorbs more. Taxes increase. Your baseline cost of living rises. With it, your dependency rises. Dependency is the hidden risk. If your lifestyle requires $20,000 per month to sustain, your vulnerability is tied to that number. A $300,000 salary with $270,000 in annual commitments is more fragile than a $140,000 salary with $75,000 in expenses. One appears more successful. The other is more resilient. Resilience is defined by margin. Margin is the gap between what you earn and what you must spend. But there is another layer most professionals overlook. Recovery is not symmetrical. If your portfolio declines by 20%, you need a 25% gain just to break even. If it falls 50%, you need a 100% gain to recover. Losses demand disproportionate effort to reverse. The same principle applies to income disruption. If income drops by 30% while fixed costs remain constant, stress does not rise by 30%. It accelerates. Because fixed obligations do not shrink automatically, they remain fixed. And fixed costs magnify downturns. Consider two professionals who each lose 30% of their income. The first has wide margin. Essential expenses equal 50% of prior income. The second has narrow margin. Essential expenses equal 85% of prior income. For the first, the disruption is uncomfortable. For the second, it is destabilizing. The math looks similar. The lived experience is not. When margin is thin, small shocks create nonlinear consequences. Savings drain quickly, negotiation leverage weakens, investment discipline erodes, optionality disappears. You cannot pause. You cannot wait for better conditions. You must accept what is available. Urgency replaces strategy. High income can increase bargaining power, but high obligations can eliminate it overnight. There is also a portfolio parallel. If you withdraw aggressively during a downturn to sustain lifestyle commitments, you lock in losses. Locked-in losses require disproportionate future gains to recover. That is recovery asymmetry. The deeper the drawdown, the steeper the climb back. If reserves are depleted entirely during disruption, rebuilding them requires sustained surplus later, which may not arrive quickly. One period of overextension can delay progress for years. That is structural risk. Not volatility, not temporary fluctuation, but the compounding cost of reactive decisions. Tight systems do not fail loudly at first. They strain, they compress, they force trade-offs, sell now, accept now, compromise now. Under sustained pressure, they crack. Not because income was small, but because structure was thin, and thin structures only reveal themselves under weight. Over a decade, the consequences compound, quietly, subtly. Two professionals earn similar incomes. They enter strong industries, they experience promotions within similar windows. On paper, their trajectories look nearly identical. One steadily expands lifestyle, the other steadily expands assets. In the early years, the difference feels small. Both upgrade homes, both take vacations, both invest something. Both feel secure. But habits begin to diverge. The first treats every raise as permission to raise baseline living costs. A larger mortgage, higher recurring expenses, more fixed commitments. The second treats raises as fuel for margin. Lifestyle increases modestly. Assets increase faster. Liquidity builds. By year 5, both still appear successful. High income, strong titles, similar social circles. but their structures are no longer equal. By year 10, the gap becomes meaningful. The first professional has higher fixed costs, higher required income, more psychological pressure to maintain status. The second has optional income streams, lower required monthly burn, greater negotiating leverage. When disruption arrives, and eventually it does, the contrast sharpens. A downturn, a restructuring, an industry slowdown. For the first, the disruption threatens identity. Every month without income drains reserves quickly. Opportunities must be accepted, not evaluated. They negotiate from compression. For the second, the disruption is uncomfortable but manageable. Reserves exist. Fixed costs are controlled. They can wait. They can choose. They can think strategically instead of urgently. The difference is not talent, it is structure. Structure compounds over time. Small decisions repeated for a decade create asymmetry. An extra percentage saved, a resisted upgrade, a mortgage not maximized. These choices feel minor in the moment. Over time, they create optionality. Optionality creates calm. Calm produces better decisions. Better decisions compound further. On the other side, lifestyle inflation compounds too. Each added fixed cost narrows flexibility. Narrower flexibility increases dependency. Dependency increases stress during volatility. Stress degrades decision quality. Both paths look similar in prosperity. They look radically different in disruption. Income can be converted into insulation or into obligation. Over long horizons, that distinction determines who remains stable when the cycle inevitably turns. And by the time the cycle turns, it is too late to rebuild quickly. High income becomes security only when it is structured deliberately, not assumed. Built. Security is runway. How many months can you operate without stress dictating your decisions? Security is margin. How much of your income is truly optional, not already committed? Security is liquidity. Do you have accessible reserves or only invested optimism? Security is controlled leverage. If income slows, does debt become pressure? Security is optional income. Do assets produce cash flow or only require it? So the framework becomes simple, but not easy. First, protect margin. Keep essential expenses meaningfully below income, even when you can afford more. Second, build liquidity intentionally. 6 to 12 months of essential costs is not pessimism, it is stability. Third, convert raises into assets before lifestyle. Let investments scale faster than obligations. Fourth, cap fixed commitments. Mortgages, vehicles, tuition, and memberships should not require perfect continuity. Fifth, treat income as variable, even in strong years, especially in strong years. And finally, detach identity from earnings. Your title can change, your compensation can fluctuate. Your structure should not depend on either. High income is a tool. Used intentionally, it creates insulation. Used casually, it creates dependency. The difference is discipline. And discipline is easiest to ignore when everything feels safe. And discipline is quiet. It does not announce itself in strong markets. It reveals itself in weak ones. High income is powerful, but power without structure is fragile. Income can expand your life, or it can quietly bind you to it. The difference is not how much you earn, it is how much you require. Before celebrating your next raise, pause. Does this increase your freedom or increase your fixed commitments? Before upgrading your lifestyle, pause again. Will this decision widen your margin or narrow it? Financial security is not proven during expansion. It is revealed during interruption. When income slows, when negotiations tighten, when options shrink. That is when structure speaks. Not titles, not bonuses, not appearances. The professionals who endure are not necessarily the highest earners. They are the most structurally sound. They built insulation when times were strong. They treated income as variable. They protected margin. They valued flexibility over display. So the goal is not to earn more. The goal is to remain stable when earning fluctuates. Survive first, then grow. Because real security is not what you make, it is what you can withstand. And if you don't know the answer to that yet, the time to find out is before the cycle forces you to. And that question, what can you withstand, matters far more than how much you earn.